Calling the combined meeting Thursday, April 25th to order at 6:01. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brusher. Councilmember Coyle. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel.
Here.
Councilmember Patil. Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Shmuel.
All right, Madam Clerk, please read the adequate notice.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Sentinel, and Desi Talk on December 12th, 2023, and posted in the Lobby Municipal Complex on that same date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As for the President's remark, Ordinance 2214, amending the waivers to provide for reduced tree fund contribution for certain residential properties, and amending Chapter 25, Section 13 tree fund to designate projects that are eligible for tree fund expenditure. We'll have the public hearing on May 8th, as the newspaper made a mistake in the ad and will need to be republished. Moving on to number 5, unfinished business. Ordinance for further consideration and public hearing. Do we have to read this, Madam Clerk?
No, this is just if they have any comments.
Okay. Any comments on Ordinance 2213 from the council? No? And any comments on Ordinance 2215? All right, moving on to number 6. From the Department of Finance, any questions or concerns from A through H?
Council President?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to take the sewer rate. I know we have an increase, right? Increases happen. But what are the increases due to? Is this to, like, the charges we get from the county? Or are these increases due to our bonding?
It's related to the bonding. A lot of the infrastructure we're putting into. We haven't updated the rate since 2019, since the commencement of the utility. I did send over an analysis to the council just to outline exactly what has happened up until this point. So if you just reference that, what this increase is a 2.5% increase, which is about $8 and change
Okay.
on a yearly basis.
Okay, but it was really due to, we're spending money on the infrastructure now. And then this is basically the cost for that finance. A lot of it's really the cost for the financing of it.
In part, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. And budget, temporary budget appropriations. Are we going to have a permanent budget?
We are. We'll have it at the next council meeting.
Did the committee have a meeting yet?
We had an initial meeting. We discussed where the budget is at. It hasn't changed much. We're waiting for some numbers from the state regarding their appropriations, and that's really much of what we were doing. We're also trying to clean up the capital budget, which would also come alongside the introduction.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councilman. Can we get that mic fixed? Okay. Moving on to number 7 from the Department of Health, A and B. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to number 8 from the Department of Law. Any questions or comments? Okay. Moving on to number 9 from the Department of Planning and Engineering. A and B. Any questions or comment? Seeing none. Moving on to number 10 from the Department of Public Works. A and B. Any questions or comments? All right. Moving on to number 11, from the Department of Water and Sewer, A and B. Any questions or comments? All right, number 12, from the Department of Recreation. Any questions or comments? Moving on to number 13, from the Chief of Police. Any questions or comments?
Council President. 13D, about the procurement card. This is a first for me. What do we normally do when we have to get prisoners from other states or other counties?
So this is part of the procurement card. For the procurement card, it's required that it comes to the council for resolution and approval. It doesn't happen often, and I don't know that it's happened much, maybe one other time, but we are required to, via resolution, to get that approval from the council in order to get the reimbursement costs.
So we don't have to pick anybody up or anything?
We do. We have to pick someone who's essentially not in location.
Okay. And I assume that this is big crime, not...
I don't know the level of
ticket?
detail of the crime, but I can certainly provide that to you. Could you, Chief? Thank you.
Councilman, so in this particular instance, we had to send 2 detectives to Florida. They've already been there and back. They did bring a prisoner back with them that was wanted here in Edison for a series of weapons offenses, quite a few weapons offenses. Obviously made it worth our while to go pick him up and extradite him back to New Jersey. That's already occurred at this time.
Okay.
This is a reimbursement for those costs.
Oh, it's a reimbursement. It's not for a...
It's already occurred. They've done their due diligence. The prisoner is back in New Jersey. This is basically reimbursement, yes.
Okay. Yes, I thought it was we were authorizing like a credit card to go down and get him. No problem. Thank you very much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, number 14 from the Township Clerk. A and B, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moving on to the regular meeting. All right, unfinished business. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by amending the following subsections 37-62 sign regulations to add language pertaining to off-premise billboard guidelines.
All right, so this is number 15-02213, and it's open to public comments if anyone wants to make a comment on this. All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close?
May I have a second?
Second.
And any council comments on this?
Council President, just my understanding, because we did not get the report back from the planning board, just in conformance with the master plan, that this was going to be, I guess, tabled until the next meeting. Am I understanding that correctly?
Mike, what, are we going to table this since we haven't heard back from the planning board?
Yeah, because this was previously, sorry. So the discussion that I had with Councilman Pointer with the clerk was because it had been published for today for public discussion and the public hearing, that rather than republish, potentially confuse the public about when it was going to occur, have to incur the extra cost, that could be on today for public hearing, for people to make their comments known to the council, and then table it until the next one when the planning board has the opportunity to get their comments back so that it could be voted on.
Do we have to have a specific date?
It is on the planning board agenda for Monday.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then we can do May 8th then.
So that it would be
So it would be for, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's get a motion to table for May 8th.
yeah.
Just whatever the
But
proper.
you could still conduct the public hearing today so that people have the opportunity to be heard on it if that's what they so desire.
I think we did that part.
I would like to make my comment on the ordinance at the time of the vote, if that's okay.
Fair. All right, so can I just get a motion to table this to May 8th?
Motion to table this until May 8th?
May I have a second?
Second it.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Yes. All right, Madam Clerk, please read ordinance 2215.
Ordinance amending Chapter 17, Housing by amending Section 17-2, Multiple Dwelling Registration.
All right, I will take any public comments on ordinance 2215. All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public portion?
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, I'll take any council comments on this. Councilman Brescher?
Yes. In reading this, and I, just to make sure I have it clear and I read it correctly, if I were to retire, right, and move to Florida, and I rent my home to my son and my grandson, would they have to pay a fee for this?
No, I think its minimum is 5, if I'm not mistaken.
The license applies to dwelling units or rental units of 5 or more units.
So it's 5 or more?
Yeah, that's for the license fee. I mean, you would still have to obviously pay the inspection fees and things like that that were always part of the ordinance.
Those were existing?
Yeah, those were existing, the inspections.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Oh, do I get a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt?
May I have a second?
Second.
And Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Yes. And that was a motion by Council Vice President and second by Councilman Pointer. Someone asked me to read that out loud, because, yeah. All right, moving on to number 16, new business, proposed ordinance for public hearing set down for Wednesday, May 8th. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance 2217.
This ordinance amends the Edison Township Code to establish rates the township charges for users of the township's water system.
All right, may I have a motion to introduce?
Council President, I move this ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law for further consideration and public hearing set down for Wednesday, May 8th, 2024.
And may I have a second?
Second.
All right, that's a motion by Councilman Pointer, second by Council Vice President. Can I have any council comments? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Yes. All right, Madam Clerk, please read ordinance 2218.
This ordinance amends the Edison Township Code to revise and update the 2024 per gallon water rates the township charges residential and non-residential users for the discharge of normal domestic sewage, and the rates charged significant industrial users to the township sewer system.
All right, and may I have a motion to introduce?
Council President, I move this ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law for further consideration and public hearing set down for Wednesday, May 8th.
And may I have a second?
Second.
All right, that's a motion by Council Vice President, second by Councilman Pointer. Any council comments? All right, seeing none, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Brescher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Yes. Okay, so now we're at number 17. This will be public comments on the resolutions, and this will be only to the resolutions. And is this the one with the list? Okay. So anyone that would like to speak on the resolutions?
Joy Ship Freeman, 41.
You're recognized.
On the temporary budget appropriations,
What number is that?
205.
Uh-huh.
Are we going to just keep doing these until the budget comes apart? And do you know what time that we're going to have the budget?
So this should take us till June, and we should have the budget on next meeting, and that should be in time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Okay, and 211, is this just for one pumping station improvement?
I believe so. Sonia?
Yes, it's for the Ford's pump station.
Just one?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else make comments on the resolution?
Thank you. Am I recognized?
You are recognized. And if you don't mind, can you speak to the ordinance that you'll be talking about too? The number?
Absolutely.
Resolution, sorry.
Okay. I'm against R205.
Okay.
I want to know what that includes, but not right now. R223, the 350,000 for the law enforcement. I would like, through the chair, to Deputy Chief Dudash to explain what that $350,000 would be used for.
Actually, I have a list here. If you want, I can read it.
Go ahead and read it.
The ammunition is one of the biggest part, which is 175,000. There's firearms, which is 30,000. Firearms accessories, 5,000. Non-lethal weapons, riot control, parts and accessories.
I heard enough. I
Okay.
heard enough. They don't need none of it. Through the chair to Councilman Brescher. They don't need none of it. Let's not give them any of it. Most of these officers that they want to give ammo and weapons to don't even understand a member of the public can stand in a publicly accessible area, and some of them do. But there's quite, or they just, maybe they do, and those officers just gaslight you and take illegal orders, and they do a good job pretending to be stupid. Either way, no, absolutely not. I'm against it. I'm against R223. I hope you're all against R223. I'm against R223 because they're asking for $350,000 for all these supplies. I do an OPA request for their standard operating procedures, which should be made available to the public, $4,000. So what are they trying to hide? What's being hidden? What's being hidden from the public? Until they become more transparent to the whole town, no $350,000 for them. Another reason I'm against giving them the $350,000 is because, through the chair to Deputy Chief Dudash, are you still the media coordinator for Edison Township?
You can address the questions to me.
Address the questions to you. Okay, is he still the media coordinator for the police for Edison Township?
Sonia? Is he the media coordinator for Edison Township? Dudash? Chief Dudash? I don't think so. Okay.
Yes, he is. I feel that we're using the police media to use their connections.
Point of order. This has nothing to do in regards to the purchasing resolution.
Absolutely it does. Through the chair to the lawyer, the reason why I believe it does is I'm letting you know why I'm protesting the $350,000 to them. So I'm explaining, because of this issue and because of A, B, C, and D, I'm against giving them the $350,000. And now Councilman Pointer simply just wants to waste my time.
It's closer. The purchasing request is for specifically equipment. If you can make the point quickly, I think it'll stay within the rules.
No, I understand, but I'm against giving them the $350,000 because, quite simply, the police is in shambles. We're using them to go after the mayor's political opponents. We're putting fake charges on anybody all over town.
Again, I think you're going off track here, so can we stay on topic as to what are you don't want the police to have ammunition? Is that what you're requesting?
Absolutely, because a lot of these officers who they don't even know members of the public can stand in a publicly accessible area, they're a danger to society. They're a danger to members of the public. Why give them more ammunition? We should be taking away their guns. We should be giving them more training and First Amendment protected activities and things of that nature. Is there anything in the $350,000 towards properly educating these officers on civil rights and First Amendment protected activities? Rather than just military equipment?
Specifically to equipment, not training.
Exactly. So, maybe if there was something that was real community orienting
Sure is 1 minute.
policing, like educating these officers and, you know, not to act like animals, not to take illegal orders. Like I said, proper education in the civil rights, people's civil rights. How to follow proper Attorney General protocols and procedures. Maybe I would support the $350,000, but until then, I can't support it. I got police officers trying to push me out of the building all the time. They're not allowed to do that. I saw a video where the BA brags.
Again, I think you're going off of track.
Okay. Well, I just find it disgusting. I just find it disgusting.
I understand.
Okay, how much time do I have left? It doesn't matter if somebody holds a government position. If someone says, hey, they have a weapon ready to be used on a resident, and the police don't take action,
Yeah.
I mean, I got
I
to
understand.
question
You
the
may
police.
sit down now. Thank you.
Yeah, Council President,
Yes.
just one point that wasn't answered, but you know, in that money, all the ammo, we looked into this a couple years ago. It's not up to us to decide. It's actually like a state law that they have to qualify.
I would assume so, yeah.
And they have to get, you know, X amount of ammo to do all of this. So a lot of that, even though it seemed like a lot at the time, I think it was like 500 rounds. I mean, jokingly, I think I asked the chief if we were going to take over Metuchen. But it was a requirement that they need to qualify so many times a year. So the money is required for that item.
Thank you for enlightening us.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to make a comment on the resolutions? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close?
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to number 9. Jumping. Anything to pull for a separate vote from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, so the consent agenda will be R201 to R224. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
May I have a second?
Second.
And that's a motion by Council Vice President, second by Councilman Pointer. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Yes. All right, number 19, oral petition and remarks. Now going off the list, Ms. Jaffe. Is it Jaffe or Joffe? Jaffe. Okay, Jaffe.
And a long E. Good evening. Diana Jaffe, 86 Laurel Hollow Court. I'm back about the sightline between Raritan Road and Inman Avenue. So this has been ongoing. I've been up here 1,000 times. I hate repeating myself, but I was a teacher, so I'm used to it. After investigations, and the BA, Sonia, was very kind. She got in touch with me. Engineers were on the phone. It was, police officers looked at the sight line with the hedges, I had said. So ultimately, a bad haircut was given to these hedges this winter. And as we all know, in the winter, there are no leaves. So there were twigs, and you drive up to the stop sign, and you can look over and see the cars coming. And now it's springtime, and guess what's grown? The hedges are higher, the leaves are all over it, and we're back at square one. This seems to be paralysis by analysis. I feel like I've been processed. I feel like everybody thought they were doing the right thing. I don't think there was any malice or intent, but it took me 10 minutes to make the left-hand turn to get here tonight. I don't know how many of you live near Inman Avenue, Councilman Brescher. I don't know if you're closer, if you've seen it. It's a nightmare. There's no traffic light, and I wasn't asking for that, but it seems like the rights of this homeowner in Edison, he has more rights than the drivers of cars and vehicles have. It is dangerous. It's a traffic hazard. There's an obstruction of, where you have to turn your head like this and wait and see if you can see the color of a car coming in between hedges. It's dangerous. It's hazardous. People can die. And yet, we were worried about the owner and how high or low we could cut the hedges. I don't know where they measured it from his property or from the road. There's a difference. I don't understand why such a simple issue has become so frustrating. So if somebody can answer me, help me out. I'm not doing this for me personally, but for everybody else who's on that road. It's just a safety hazard. So,
Sonia, do you know as to what's the situation and how we ended up there?
So when I had reference to legal, this was an enforcement issue. So if the hedges are overgrown, then we'll have to go out there and do some enforcement. That's really the next measure.
What is the height that they're allowed? Do you know by any chance, top of your head?
3 feet.
30 inches.
30 inches? Okay. So if it's anything above that, they have to cut it?
Correct.
And would they be penalized if they are not?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Ms. Jaffe.
okay.
We're going to keep it at 30 inches. If it grows above that, let anybody know, and we'll follow up on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, can I ask a question about that? This would be in the right-of-way, though, wouldn't it?
What she's referencing is actually on the property.
It's on their property, so it's like
Correct.
it's what, 15 feet from the street?
We did that with our engineer when she was referencing that. We went out there and did the measurements, so it's not in the right of way, it's in the property owner's.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
The next person is Xavier Charles.
Thank you. Am I recognized?
You're recognized.
Okay. Through the chair to Councilman Brescher. Councilman Brescher, if you could be so kind to request from the police department the standard operating procedures, because IOPA requested it. They're trying to charge me $4,000. For some reason, they feel the need to, there's things they need to redact in it, when police departments across the nation are releasing this as publicly accessible information. I don't think that's right. I think this should have already been information that's on their website. And yeah, I think that's a crazy, exorbitant amount of money, $4,000, just to get their standard operating procedure. How can I know what they're supposed to do and not supposed to do unless I read it for myself? You understand? They're already breaking the Attorney General's directives all the time and his guidelines. I just want to see how much of the standard operating procedures they're breaking all the time. That's all.
So,
you can, afterwards, you can.
okay.
It's still my time to speak. Okay. Yeah, I think the Edison Police Department is corrupt, but I think what's even more corrupt is the way you guys run this council. Not all the members of the council, but I just find it strange how, through the chair to Councilman Brescher, I just said a few words, choice words, on Deputy Chief Dudash, nothing out of the ordinary, just a few piece of shit, whatever. It was gonna end with that. I was gonna move on to whatever the next is. But for whatever reason, every year, the council knows they're not supposed to interrupt the speaker when it's their time to speak. But they like to create havoc, make it seem like the speaker is out of order when he's not out of order. And yeah, I ended up dropping a few F-bombs, not for anything really that Dudash did, but if you want to keep interrupting me as I'm trying to make my point, I'm gonna use the law 100%. I'm gonna use Rosenfeld versus New Jersey. I'm gonna use my First Amendment. So please, if you don't want me to drop F-bombs, don't interrupt me when it's my time to speak. I think we're all grown adults and we can all understand that when it's my time to speak, I can't be interrupting the meeting. I can't be disrupting the meeting. The only person disrupting the meeting is a person breaking Robert's rules of order, trying to speak over me. Every time I always come to these meetings, I never speak when it's not my time to speak. How can I be disrupting the meeting? But people like Councilman Coyle, Nish Patel, they all know they're not supposed to do this, but they pretend like they don't know. They learn it every year. They learn it, they agree they're not supposed to do this, and then a new council president comes up and starts violating rights again. And I don't like that, I don't appreciate that. Councilman Patel, even though you're not as bad as Councilman Coyle was, you still violate my rights some of these times. I understand the mayor pressures you, and through the chair to Councilman Brescher, even when I go to do my rebuttals, I find it rather strange that you can hear him through hot mics ordering the lawyer to police my rebuttals. Like, they claim I never do a real rebuttal when I actually do a real rebuttal every time. It just goes to show their nefarious intentions. It's always caught on live TV. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not gonna have people gaslight me anymore. You understand? When it's my time to speak, it's my time to speak. You know? How much time do I have left, Ms. Marlena?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? So Deputy Chief Dudash? Deputy Chief Dudash knows what I started off saying wasn't anything out of the ordinary. That was just me being me. But for whatever reason, Councilman Patel, why did you want to stop me when I want to call someone a piece of shit or a scumbag? You're not allowed to do that. You know you're not allowed to do that. You wouldn't do it for other members of the public, but when it's me, you want to play stupid? I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. I'm not being boisterous right now. I'm speaking in an educational context, and if you don't like what I'm saying, here you want to stop me from what I'm saying, yet there was a 9th grade poem given out in the Edison School District. Very graphic, child pornography, through the chair to Councilman Brescher. And of course, once again, Councilman Coyle is late to the meeting because he has no respect for the Edison people. It's time and time, it's a pattern with him. Constantly late to the meetings, and you wanted to be council president, Councilman Coyle? Thank God we didn't make you council president. It would have been Margot who would have been the council president. But in any case, how much time do I have left?
36 seconds.
36 seconds. God bless America. And stop violating my rights. I know what you're doing. You're trying to gaslight me. Gaslighting is a form of abuse. Why are you abusing me during my First Amendment protected activity? It just speaks volumes to your own character. And even if you don't want to do it, even if someone's forcing you to do it, you're still an accessory and an abuser yourself. So I hope you stop doing it. I hope you don't do what Councilman Coyle used to do and order police to surround.
All right, thank you. Next is Joyce Shipp Freeman.
Joyce Shipp Freeman, 41
You recognized?
Main Street. This is a thing that I'm kind of disturbed about, that even speaking as an ex-council person, that all these lawsuits, we are settling behind the scenes for millions and different amounts of dollars, and they wind up going through JIF. The council people have no say-so in how our money is being spent. Now, I know that our BA sits on the insurance commission, but, you know, and one of them I wanted to call out, you know, this particular girl for the police, and I'm hoping that it wasn't because she was black or she was a woman that she didn't get the promotion, because when I seen it, and I was like disturbed by it, and then I said, wait a minute, they're also extracting stuff from the things they promised her. That means the union has no say, you know, so it's kind of, we gave the union 5 cookies and we took back 3, but I'm just really, I think this is, I've seen different people, politicians in court hearings and stuff behind doing stuff like this JIF thing, whereas you do all these things and you do these things behind your backs, because I don't know how many millions that we're going to get out that nobody up there is saying yay to. Okay, so maybe it's the BA and the mayor who controls all the purse strings and everybody just sits there. Number two, I was looking at some of the reading and some of the explanation, and I seen about the transit village and the different things toward Edison, and it just reminds me of June Choi 2.0. And you see how far that went. And then I'm looking and I'm seeing that we're gonna have Amboy Avenue, we're gonna have these buildings that's 4 feet. Then we're gonna go down a little bit further, we're gonna go to Middlesex College, that's gonna have 14 plastic fields. Then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna block something else off. You know, we're gonna block off another street. So it already takes you like 30 minutes to get to the other side of Edison. Congestion pricing, maybe we'll have that because that's how long it'll take us to move in Edison. You can't hardly move now, but everybody's this wonderful thing. And as somebody called me and told me, they said about they hope they're not talking about transit villages down by Plainfield Avenue because they said there's already a wreck. And they say the people that's presenting it, they live in little pockets somewhere. They're not involved in the actual traffic. And they say that's the part that's really hurting them because trying to get around in this town is already, it's really, really crazy for you to even try to move around here. So I understand and I know what people are talking about, making money and doing these other things, but I mean, what is the expense of the quality of life of the Edison people? I mean, you're gonna just steal the whole quality of life from them. Every place you go, you're gonna be just like this, not able to move at all. Because I've seen it, and the amount of accidents we have in Edison. Like, how much more can we go? How much? I just don't know. It's like too much at this particular time. And I'm trying. And then they're talking about we get a developer and to move things along. I hope we do because it seems like we spent everything. But my last thing, I'm saying it again. How many millions are we going to give out behind closed doors without any say-so of anybody at all? You know, I mean, we can't even highlight the council people or nothing because they're not even okaying the money. The money's just going out, going out, going out. And I seen, I think they even got a case in New York about people doing money things behind scene politicians. You need to get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Council President,
Yes, Council.
can I ask the attorney something about that?
Yeah.
I have read that council has to approve any settlements that are done, by the township. Yet we go through the JIF and council doesn't approve, right? And is that a end around? Because at the end of the day, the JIF is the joint insurance fund, correct? And like my auto insurance, when I hit a car, typically my rates go up because of that. So this body, right, we're not getting to approve the JIF's increases because we're not getting to approve what the JIF's settling for. It almost looks like an end around to the council should have the authority to approve settlements.
I'll be honest with you, Mr. Brescher. I'm not entirely certain which settlements we're talking about that have been approved without the council review. I'll have to look at that, but what I can tell you about the JIF and dealing with them on lawsuits is that oftentimes what happens with the JIF is that they will approve a case for consideration under the policy. They'll assign counsel. They'll make a determination as to what they're willing to settle for, and they will stop or terminate coverage for that amount, essentially, if the case doesn't settle, if the township doesn't settle it. So if they say this case is worth $500,000 and that's what we're approving for settlement, and the plaintiff has accepted that, and the township says, well, we're not going to pay that, Jeff will say, then hire your own attorney. Here's a check for $500,000. Good luck. Don't get hit for $3 million because we're not covering the rest of that. And so I know that is a component of any settlement with the JIF is that they ultimately decide what they're willing to pay for it. With respect to cases being settled without the council's input or review, I'll have to look into that for you.
Right, that's what I'm looking for because
rest of the team.
Right, when I was on the school board, we had like a JIF, I don't know, different name, but basically.
Yeah.
Insurance company. And they were required to get the Board of Education's approval on any settlement. Yet, like I said, I read that this body is the only body that can approve a settlement. I don't know if it was by state law or by Edison's ordinances, but we have the JIF that has settled something. And with that, if you could check one of the things with that, in the one settlement, I believe now there is something that we are obligated to do as far as promotions within the police department. And my question is, how would the JIF be allowed to determine our promotional policy when that would come like through the administration and then this body to approve a certain promotional policy? So like I know we had one and we eliminated it, but now the JIF is saying we have to do something that the administration, didn't come to us and we didn't approve, and our security, who's on the security committee? We have a bunch of people here on the security committee. I don't think they're aware of any of this.
So that's actually less unusual if there is, and it's usually not JIF that does it. A lot of times it'll be PERC or it'll be the Superior Court who orders it. But it's not unusual where if there is a statutory requirement that is not being followed, that has to be followed, or if there is a significant body of case law that has essentially become, this is how this has to be and you can't do otherwise, that they'll mandate that it be followed as part of the terms and conditions of continuing to be insured by them. So that can happen. Again, if you have the details on any of these cases, if you can email me about them so I can sit down with either
I'll
Mr.
send you the Facebook link.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that's where I get my legal stuff when we get sued, from Facebook, by the way. But yeah, I'll take a screenshot of it so you can see what site it's on.
That have occurred or whatever it is. That way we can discuss it in full. We can maybe go into executive session and discuss the details of the settlements,
okay,
if necessary. But that way I can look into it fully as opposed to throwing out
right.
possible
No,
theories.
right. I'm looking for an answer on those two questions. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Council President.
You can come on. You can come on up. Ms. Lois.
Lois Wolke, Peak Road. I have a question about when Edison council meetings will be aired on Edison TV. They will always air 7 o'clock the night after the meeting, and then again 12 noon on both the work session and the regular council meeting. And they also, I believe, were aired one day over the weekend, maybe Saturday. The reason I ask, I know one recent meeting you purposely didn't air, but the meeting after that, I couldn't find it. And I was wondering here are my questions, what the schedule is presently for the council meetings. And I heard a rumor that there's only going to be one scheduling, one airing at 10:30 during the week. It's 10:30 p.m. If that's the case, who made this decision and the name of the person and the rationale behind it? We fought long and hard, you people probably maybe didn't even live in Edison at the time, to get these meetings on TV. And there are a lot of people that don't have computers, older people, and people who can't get to the meeting, who rely on seeing it on TV. And I just want to know if there's any truth to the rumor that it's only going to be aired that one night. And, it's only one way for Edison residents to see what's happening, to be informed. And I hate to get the perception that this administration or this council doesn't want the people to see what's going on. So I'd really like clarification on the 3 questions I asked.
Okay. Sonia, do you know who decided the timing? And what is the timing?
As far as decision making, I have to check with the TV schedule. It's my understanding it's shown twice a week. It is live. It's on the YouTube channel. I understand for folks that don't have the internet connection. It's shown at 10:30. I have to check to see if it's AM or PM, but I will clarify that for you.
Council President, I had gotten the same question from Esther Nemitz, who has been a long time.
Actually,
Okay, but I just want to piggyback on what Lois is saying. Esther, who's in her 90s now, who does not have any of the technology, and for a 90-something-year-old, 10:30 p.m. That's just not going to work. And so I am fully in favor of restoring something that's more accessible for residents who don't have the technology and who very much want to keep up with these meetings.
I agree with you. I think we should have it more reasonable and more frequent. I just don't know how to go about doing that. Sonia, can you make sure that it is done more frequently? That way the residents can follow along.
I think Esther Nemitz might have contacted the council because she's shut in and she only has the television to watch the program. So I'd appreciate if we could make it more accessible to people. My second thing I'd like to discuss, this goes back to the February 26th meeting. Took me a while to get back here, but I said I would. I had some questions about the racist flyer. I asked about it at the February 26th meeting. I had to leave early, and I assumed, even though I wasn't present at the meeting, that my questions would be answered. I waited for meetings after that, and the questions were never answered. So I'm going to repeat what I said at that meeting. So you've all had 2 months to think about it, and hopefully it was important enough to you to think about it and have some answers if I came back. And this is exactly what I said. The residents of Edison have not had an update on the racist flyer issue in conjunction with the 2017 Edison Board of Education campaign. It's over 5 years now that it's been with the state down in Trenton. We've gone through 2 attorneys general, and it seems Edison and this issue have been put on the back burner in hopes of sweeping it under the rug. It's insulting enough that the state has chosen to ignore it, but even more, it's a disgrace that Edison elected officials don't care enough about the residents to follow up and bring this issue to a resolution. My questions were, and I'll ask them again, hopefully I'll get answers. Who in Edison administration has been following up on this issue over the years? Who's following up on it now? What is the present update and status on this down in Trenton? And what is the next action Edison plans to take to bring this to a closure and resolve it?
Thank you. So as far as I know, I talked to the legal about this at the last time, and they said it is with the Attorney General in the state, and we really cannot do anything. It is up to them to take up the case. If you have anything more to add to that particular?
No, we can't compel them.
Could you speak in your microphone, please?
Sorry, I keep forgetting that I put it up. We can't compel the Attorney General's office to take any kind of action. We can only follow up with them. That's the other part of her question is who has been following up, and that would be on a question, to be answered by the administration. But there's no legal mechanism anyway to compel the Attorney General to take any kind of action on an investigation, particularly one that's 7 years old at this point.
Okay.
Okay. It's just a shame that a resident.
Unfortunately, your time is up, so you can't talk. But I will continue answering this question, so that way it's not forgotten about. But Sonia, is there a way we can follow up with the AG to?
I can bring it up to legal and discuss that, but I was not part of that, so I can have an update for you.
Okay. But unfortunately, since once it goes to the AG, we really don't have any mechanism to necessarily force them to take this up. It is up to them to do this. I don't know any other way. Is there anything else we can do on our side to move forward with this? Or send them a letter or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's up to you to put a little heat under that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All Anybody else that would like to speak?
Don Tar, 52 Reeder Road, Edison.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Several weeks ago before this body, I recommended through the chair to address council to examine two possible municipal taxes that could be applied regarding billboards. Municipal taxes, not state, not federal, municipal, not county. One was applying a municipal tax on any billboard built on any Edison Township property. And another was apply a reduction of municipal taxes on any residential property within X feet of one of these monstrous billboards. My question to Council President and then to the Chair, what has your research developed regarding those proposals?
Okay. Leo, would you like to answer this?
Sure. Yep. So the easy one is the reduction on municipal taxes due to the proximity to billboards. That's built into how assessments are done. Right? It's if you think about the proliferation of homeowners associations, it's all about keeping the neighborhood looking a certain way in order to keep property values high. That is essentially how the tax code works, how the county tax board makes those judgments and assessments based on surrounding areas, surrounding property values, amenities, detractions. So that's baked into how those municipal assessments are calculated. If someone's dissatisfied with how that shakes out, how that calculation works, they have the right to appeal to the tax assessor, to file appeal with the county tax board, to make those arguments, to have an assessor come in and provide hard numbers to reduce it even further. But it's baked in, and it's not something that the township has the ability to go and mandate and say, if you are within X feet of this, we are going to say that your property value is, that's preempted by the state tax codes.
The township sets up its own municipal tax rate, does it not? Not the county. Township sets up municipal taxes.
But the calculations are mandated by the state tax code.
I understand, but it's common knowledge that these billboards reduce your property value by 10 to 50%. Okay, then moving on to the first one, why cannot the municipality apply a municipal tax, not a county tax, not something that has to be approved by the county, a municipal tax to any of these electronic billboards built on any property within Edison Township?
So there are a couple of issues with that. The primary and really the most controlling of those issues is that it starts running into what are essentially First Amendment rights. That is the controlling law that has dominated the discussion amongst the courts with respect to how much you can control electronic billboards, regular billboards, and whether those tax schemes or additional fees or assessments start to infringe upon the ability of those companies to actually produce their message. It would be easily challengeable. Whether or not that challenge would be successful, that's a little bit less clear. Haven't dug up anything yet that says directly it's not allowed. But just as equally concerning, haven't dug up anything that says directly that it is allowed, which would then essentially make Edison a test case for it, which is problematic in and of itself, particularly with some of the concerns that some of the other residents have put forth about legal bills, about settlements, about lawsuits. So it's not a easy solution to just say, okay, well, if we don't want these, we're going to impose a tax on them because of the nature of them and the constitutional issues that it.
We do apply other municipal taxes. So we have a library tax, correct?
Yeah.
Did we ask anybody if they wanted to be taxed regarding libraries? Is that not a First Amendment right too?
It is not.
It's not, okay. I see part part of the problem lies in our failure or our reticence to take on difficult issues, with the possibility that we may be beaten in court. What about all the people whose property values are going to decline because of this? What about having a billboard, a monster billboard in my backyard flashing? I have rights too. Why are you afraid to take them on? Okay, we lose, but let's take them on and see if we lose.
1 minute.
And by the way, 7 years is not the statute of limitations 7 years?
I'm sorry, are you switching?
I'm switching topics to the racist flyer. Statute of limitations 7 years?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure because I'm not
Because
sure
if it is,
the
all the
allegations.
Attorney General has to do is sit on his ass for the next X number of months. The 7-year statute of limitations will then expire and he won't have to deal with it. That's what happens when you refuse to deal with difficult issues.
Council President?
Yes.
A question to the attorney.
Yes.
The resident, when he came up and we were talking the last time at the last meeting, and we were talking about that area, right? And now you're about everybody around that billboard, let's say within 500 feet, would be entitled to a tax reduction.
Yes.
Is there, and you said there's a mechanism in place where they can go individually, but why would each individual have to pay an attorney $1,500 or $2,500 or whatever they charge you to do the tax appeal? Because they will be successful, I believe. Can they do it as a community, and get one attorney and have them go in and sit with the tax assessor and look for this appeal as maybe a group within 500 feet or 1,000 feet or something of that nature?
So, legal, you can answer just 1 second. I think our limitation is 500 feet. They can't have any billboards within 500 feet, right, Councilman Pointer?
I think there are two separate questions to what Councilman Brescher is asking.
I know. I think that he's asking whether or not we can appeal the tax rate and have it done as a group.
In the ordinance, though, to your point, the buffer is proposed at the 500 feet, but that's zoning no matter what, right? They can apply regardless, looking for a variance.
And to question for you, can they do that? Can they?
Like a class action or some, I don't
Yeah,
know what mechanism.
So the mechanism that's built in for it is in the assessed value of the home, right? That's the baked in mechanism. And if they're not happy with that, they could each individually go and hire an attorney. They could find an attorney that is willing to take on each one of them. They can't file them all together at the county to say, this case is these 16 properties all applying for it. That has to be done individually. But you could go to an attorney as a group. There's nothing stopping them from doing that and saying, will you handle all of these appeals at once and with the same issue so that you can discuss it with the assessor, or discuss it with the attorney for the township when it goes to tax court, to see if we can get a reduction that is fair and equitable to all of us, rather than 16 homeowners, one gets 200 off, one gets 1,500 off, one gets 1,000 off.
No, but see, let me tell you where I go with this, because I actually fought my taxes, to be honest with you, on my very first home. I got it reduced by about 33% in Piscataway. And that was really sitting down and going through, because they charge you by the square footage, by the bathrooms, and they have dollar amounts for everything, right? But the base value of my property, and this is where I'm going with these residents, every one of their base values are diminished by the same amount of money. So there is no way an appeal should be able to go through for 10 different residents and have them reduce them at 500, 200, or 1,500. The property itself now has been affected. Therefore, that's why they're getting that reduction, but that reduction should be the same reduction in every single home by our tax code, because that's based upon the property and the value that it is within that realm. Like if you're behind a train track and the train comes every day and I live a mile away, my property is assessed more with no home on it on the same square footage in the same lot.
In theory, yes, but when you file in a tax appeal, right, one of the things that you have to remember is that you don't file a tax appeal and say, hey, my house is overvalued because of this one issue, and then they only look at that one issue, right? What comes, I've done these on behalf of townships. I've done this on behalf of myself. I've been in front of the county tax board. Number of times I've been in front of the state tax courts. They don't just look at that. They don't say, oh, you have one issue, we're going to look at just this one issue. They look at the entire property. And they might say, yeah, you're right, you should get a $1,500 reduction based on the fact that you're within this proximity to the billboard. But also what's missing from your property tax card is that you updated the kitchen, you added something to the backyard, you did these other things. It's all going to even out in the end, and you get no reduction on your appeal, but will change how the numbers look on property value versus improvement value because of the overall evaluation. Or we'll change it by a compromised amount because, you know, we're trying to get this settled without ever having to go to the county tax board, or we're changing. So while the underlying theory is sound, in practice, it's simply just, it doesn't always work out that way. And you might not have all of them in front of the same commissioners. Usually you do, and that's a lot easier to do if 15 people all go to the same attorney and have it all filed together. But you might have different commissioners who have a different view of how it's done. And if it's done individually with different attorneys, and maybe this attorney gets a assessor to come and do the numbers one way, and a different attorney has a different assessor that they work with, and they do the numbers a different way, and they just have a better day at court. The practical reality of it is that you're not necessarily going to get an even distribution when it's done separately.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that when you use like the word practical reality, if 500 people came to me for the same condition, right, the practical reality would be I would want to go through and count up that they added an extra sprinkler in the backyard. Because to just save time and efficiency in government, I would acknowledge that their issue was there, and I would reduce everybody by whatever.
Yeah, but I think we all know efficiency in government is a fond dream sometimes, and particularly when you're dealing with the county tax board and you have different commissioners, you have different days for the hearings, you've got a number of these things going on, and they do a very good job there. They do a very thorough
Council
job.
President, point of order. Can we move forward? I just think we're at a mute point here. This should be a large discussion with the assessor here. It's complicated, we'll have very complicated, comprehensive. I'm not speaking wrong to your remarks, Mr. Brescher, because it's a great idea. It's a widespread of topic.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Coyle.
And I'm open to a full discussion at a certain time for 20 minutes if you yield that time for that specific
I
topic.
think next meeting on May 8th should be a better discussion period, as we are going to be implementing the billboard, so we can discuss it then.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah. Moving on, any other members that would like to speak?
Lois Tara, 52 Reeder Road, Edison, New Jersey.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I find it objectionable that the attorney would say, well, we have to look at whether it's profitable for us, or if it's something we should follow. If it might set a precedent. If we didn't take cases that set precedents in this country for things, we wouldn't be back in the Stone Ages. Let's not go by what a precedent is, but let's go by what's right.
I think that's fair. Thank you. All right, anybody else that would like to speak? All right.
Hi, Steven Zetterbaum, 7 Oliver Avenue.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I'm here once again as the president of Edison EMS, which is Edison's volunteer first aid squad. Good to see everybody again. Just wanted to quickly start with a little good update for us. So far, we've had our busiest month of the year. April absolutely blew up on us in a good way. We had a lot of calls, a lot of activity, a lot of events covered, including a couple of 5Ks and a lot of Earth Day events coverage. I've also worked in the progress of recruiting a whopping 14 members, which we are in progress of working on. Probably the biggest group of new members we've had in the past 10 years, which is excellent. Reason I am here, on March 28th, I made a formal request to the township, to the town council, to the mayor, to the business administrator for increased funding. Hopefully everybody was able to review the request so they could have a good idea of why we're making this request to the township. First, I would like to ask through the council if I could ask the BA if there is an update on that. But I guess real quick before that, I just want to stress two things. The request is more than a financial need. This is a community need. Everybody we have spoken to, including yourself, the distinguished council members, the residents, JFK EMS, which is the paid services, everybody has collectively agreed and stressed Edison deserves a volunteer squad, and a volunteer squad that is well supported. That is well known. With that said, to meet this need, we are simply asking that the Edison guarantees our volunteer services will exist for future generations to come, that this township has that support, and we're simply requesting increasing our funding. We do hold the responsibility quite literally of someone's life in our hands. Not every call is a critical call. Sometimes it's just talking to a patient in need, but we do hold that very heavy burden. Even as volunteers, we recognize Edison has many hands to feed, duly noted, but we hope that they can see the value and importance of what we do and separate us and see us as an essential service for what it is. EMS is an essential service, and that need should be requested as such. So kind of would like to ask if there's any update.
Thank you. Sonia, is there any update, or do we have to wait for the budget still?
I'm actually waiting for legal because there's a specific requirement. I shoot this out to Mr. Raynone, Mike, by the way, okay. Regarding any sort of requirement or allowance that we're allowed to go over what we usually do. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a legal question than anything. Okay.
And when would you happen to have the answer by next?
I do not, but I will follow up tomorrow again.
Okay. So we will try to follow up on this with the legal to see if exactly. I'm still not sure as to what the holdup is.
So I haven't looked into this because she sent over Mr. Raynone, but per the statute, there is a certain amount that is permitted, and then anything over that is what we're looking into, or what she has Mr. Raynone looking into to determine what the mechanism is for being permitted to go over that amount.
Okay. So we are working on it, and we'll get the answer.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the statute, is that a New Jersey statute you're referring to, or is this something with Edison?
New Jersey. Point of clarification, because I read the statute that you had sent. It recently got updated at the end of last year. Originally, it was the 35,000 multiplied by 3. That's how we get to the 105. That amount has been increased. There is language in it, though, where I know how you came to your calculation. How the statute reads, though, I would question if that's the full amount, but it was revised so that the amount permissible has since increased.
Thank you for that.
Council President.
Council President, I want to recognize, I told Mr. Brescia I wanted to go first. But I just want first to thank you for being here. Council President, thank you for listening to the squad and all members of the council. I think it's quite interesting what they accomplish over decades of time, having geographic coverage throughout the town, but more important, the slope of what they've been through prior to paid service, prior to contracts with HMS, prior to training. And they went through an entire ski slope of up and downs, and have rebuilt this through losing a lot of great members of the squad who just through attrition faded out, and they're still existing. And it's a great mutual aid to what we have existing, especially during COVID. I'm sure most of you would know during COVID, it was difficult to fulfill, every call, and having them come in as well is just a great opportunity. And we've had a pretty good, and I'm not saying we have it in the budget, but it's certainly worth looking at. We've had a lot of cost savings since we decided to go with HMS. For those who believe in the service we have, we don't have any liability like we did before. We don't have paid staff. We don't have liability of trucks like you do on the squad. Workman's comp, et cetera. There's a list of maintenance that comes with running in EMS department. It just goes on and on. So I think they've been a great service. I hope we can look at this fundamentally because they're in a dire strait here, and they haven't asked for any more than they've asked for the past. It's just certainly something to look at for the fact that they still exist. There's young people still running it to train others and to continue to have a succession plan. Today a good friend of ours is not doing well, Mr. Byers, who ran for 30 years. If anybody knows the name, their entire family volunteered. Sad he's not doing well today, and my prayers are with him. But it's amazing how many people come through the squad and then became EMTs or nurses or some doctors. So it's just certainly something for us to look at. And I know we're challenged by different obstacles, but I definitely need to sit down with you, Council President, on that note.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle? Councilman Brescher?
Council President, yes. I'd like to let Sonia know. I mean, I did speak to someone in the administration, but it wasn't Sonia at the time. I've always been supportive of our volunteers. I was against us sending and transferring this out to JFK. It's my understanding that on every call that goes out, JFK gets reimbursed. And I don't know that JFK bills when our EMS gets called. But I don't know why JFK, as call it a management organization, could not bill for your EMS when they go out. And JFK pays Edison a fee to have this service. Like we gave it to them and they give us a fee for that. I don't know, to me, if JFK would bill for the work that our volunteers are doing, which they should, and it'll be paid by an insurance carrier somewhere along the line, they increase their revenue. But that increase, they could increase what they're giving us that we contracted them for, that then we could award that over.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
It doesn't cost the taxpayers anything at the end of the day. They get the funds that they need. And I spoke to Councilman Bob Deal. I got that for so many years, but I spoke to him about it, and I haven't done a follow-up with him. But I did not speak to Sonia, so I'd like to see if you guys can look into this and see what kind of mechanisms we can do to take that in place.
We can. Unfortunately, your time is up,
okay,
but we
no
can talk
worries.
offline.
Yeah, no worries.
I would assume that there might be some legal ramification as to why you cannot bill, but we can talk offline about it. And if you can, follow up.
Sure, I can do both, but just to answer the question with regards to, so JFK is our contracted vendor, and we have a contract set with the vendor. So legally, I would have to defer to our counsel about how that would actually work, where we would have two vendors essentially, or could potentially have two vendors. So contractually, I don't know if that would be allowed.
What Councilman Brescher is asking is if JFK could take the cases that EMS is working on and bill, because they don't have the facility to bill, and JFK bills for them and collects the fund and then passes the fund along to...
Or a portion thereof.
To EMS or to us.
Again, that's a contracts question.
No,
so
but we can talk
legal.
after. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Council. I will be remaining anonymous tonight. I've come here just to talk about something. I'm in Edison tonight because something has come to light. It was brought to my attention. You guys are doing something that I don't like. You have implemented some kind of rules against profanity, which we talked about the First Amendment, time, place, and manner, limited forum. It's never going to win against the First Amendment. I understand there was a resident or a gentleman who came out and used some profanity, and I guess this rule was made, and I would assume some sort of to persecute. It reminds me of when I was in like 6th grade in gym class, and somebody did something wrong, and they made everybody run 15 extra laps. And I don't have any children currently in the school system, so I'm not sure how they do things anymore. But I'll be 42 next month. So not sure if they do things like that anymore, but to punish everybody and to implement, you know, and I'm glad you guys didn't fight me on my address or my name, because these anonymous communications are heavily protected with the government. So thank you for not violating my First Amendment right there. But with this rule that you have, this procedure in place against profanity, you are essentially forcing someone's speech by disallowing them to say certain things. I'm not trying to rat anybody out, but the gentleman before said ass. Is that profanity? If I say shit, is that profanity? I mean, we're all Americans here, and this is the best country in the world. And I think we all share similar American values. So it's very discouraging to see this rule that's been implemented, because it's not the right way to approach the situation. You step in left when you should step right, or stepping back when you should step forward. Freedom of speech is the most important thing. It's the reason why it's the First Amendment. I don't think you guys need a refresher in the First Amendment, but it is protected speech against unfavorable things that are said. And I'm not going to match stupidity with stupidity and just curse right now, because I know I can. But just please rethink what you're doing. Don't punish everybody in the same moment of persecuting somebody because of whatever reasons. I'm not really sure. But First Amendment violations are something that's not okay. And nobody should be okay with it. And we all have our right to say what's on our mind. Whatever words we choose. It's the one thing we have at the end of the day. So rethink how we're approaching things. Tread easily, because you guys don't need to be opened up for any more lawsuits or any of these things like that. So just think very carefully about members of the public. I am you, you are me. We're all the same. We're Americans. We have American values. First Amendment right should never be infringed on, should never be violated. And the rule that's been implemented is an absolute violation of the First Amendment right, regardless of limited forum, time, place, and manner. That's not how it works. So I just wanted to share my comments. Thank you for not violating my rights by trying to force my speech by giving my name and address. And thank you all.
Thank you. No, Ms. Jumpy, she already spoke. Right? You already went, right? So you can't go. Oh, okay, for rebuttals, yes.
Are we at rebuttals?
Let me just go with anybody else for the first-time speaker. Okay, you can.
Diana Jaffe, 86 Laurel Hollow Court. I respectfully disagree with the last speaker, who has a right to say what he wishes. I think that the First Amendment does have limitations. You can't go screaming into a theater fire. And this forum here should be dignified. It should be respected. There should be no profanity. There's no reason to treat anybody up here with profanity. You people are here voluntarily. You work hard. You do everything you can for this town. Is it perfect? No. Do we disagree? Yes, on things. If I ran a classroom where children were allowed to say what they wanted when they wanted, there would be no dignity to education. There would be no education. There are limits to what we should say in public forums, and profanity is certainly not one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jaffe. Any other rebuttals? Okay.
Council President, I just want to thank the speaker, this gentleman here, for choosing not to exercise his amendment to curse as a courtesy to those who are listening, the children that are out there. I do understand part and all of what you're saying. It's just those, as you try to conduct a meeting and practice good to the community and for the young people listening and others, it's challenging. You don't have to, but you can choose to, and I believe we all know that. So thank you for not, but also explaining your position.
And I appreciate you extending those thanks. And if I may, as we are all living in the overcorrection era and the cancel culture, the only way to fight free speech is with more free speech. Obviously, there's things that are limited in terms of you can't make threats, you can't do these kinds of things. That kind of goes without being said, but in a limited forum, First Amendment rights, they should shine. We have an openness in government, and that should marshal pride on our open system of government. And again,
point of order.
It's
Just 1 sec, sir. Can you pause this time?
I'm just going to call out the point of order. And I know this is your first time here. In our rebuttals, I'm not sure if this is a proper rebuttal. I would ask our legal. But he originally spoke on this matter. So therefore, it's not a topic that he did in the initial. And I'm asking for clarification, which I'm permitted to do.
I think that is true. You can only rebut somebody else's speech, right, counsel?
That they did not originally speak on. And I'm trying to be respectful. They paused the time, but in conformance with the proper decorum.
I appreciate comment.
Now, I think Mr. Pointer is correct. The way that we have read and interpreted the rebuttal rules, you have the right to come up for a single rebuttal. The ever cascading rebut someone's rebuttal to rebut someone else's rebuttal has been deemed not to be the intent of the ordinance or how the ordinance is worded. So, because we can go back and forth all night, where it's, I disagree with him, I disagree with what she just said. Well, I disagree with what she just said about what I just said.
I'm pretty much done anyway, and I appreciate the comments.
Sorry, so unfortunately you won't be able to rebut her
Like I
comment.
just said,
So you'll have to sit down, please.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I appreciate the open dialogue.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to say thank you.
All right, and any more rebuttals? You come up.
And she opened up the Pandora's box so he can re-say the same things, but it's my time now.
Council President, I just want to recognize we have a young child in the audience today.
You don't have to recognize
And,
anything. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to insinuate, Councilman Quayle?
No,
that
I
I'm
just
coming up here to curse?
as a courtesy.
What are you trying to insinuate? You didn't start my time yet, Marlena, right?
Point of order, guys.
As a courtesy, you can choose as you do.
All right.
I know what I can do.
All right. You have your floor. Who are you rebutting, and what are you rebutting?
There's no need for me to say who, but I'll tell you the statements that I'm rebutting. Wait, don't start. He's asked me a question. I'm not starting my thing, so I should be able to respond.
You're talking, so your time is starting.
All right, well, then I'm not going to reply to you. I'm going to rebut the last speaker. Well, not the last speaker, the one before the last speaker. Absolute disgrace. Everyone can curse, that they don't have a problem with cursing, but as soon as I curse, it becomes a problem. Let's throw this guy out. I was falsely charged, three felony cases, and I went through the process through the chair to Councilman Brescher. Councilman Brescher, I went through that process.
Again, I'm still not getting the rebuttal.
I'm rebutting the last speaker's statement about cursing. So I had every right to curse when I did come and curse because I went through that process. I beat the case. It was proven what Deputy Chief Dudash said through the media was absolute lies. Okay? So when I came here and I cursed, that's how I felt about the situation, a lifelong resident that lost his right to post on social media for 2 years, that lost thousands of dollars, very demoralizing, dehumanizing, can't take care of your family when you're supposed to take care of your family. And no, absolute disgusting.
Point of order. And please stop the gentleman's time.
I'll educate you when I hear your point.
And I can also reference Rosenthal, the Board of Education, in which case he made a statement against the entire Board of Education, not an individual. That is a separation. I believe the gentleman spoke about this during his initial time, in which case then this would not be a proper rebuttal. And to be fair amongst all the speakers here, if I called out the previous speaker on a similar item, I should make the same point of order here. It is just the point of order is not my determination.
I understand what a point of order is.
And it's a valid point of order. It's a valid request that if there's going to be a rebuttal, new topics, or not new topics, but new points that are in rebuttal to it need to be raised, as opposed to a reiteration of what you were already permitted to speak on. You're correct, Mr. Pointer. So he's required to raise a new point rather than repeat what he's already said.
No, the last speaker made a statement. Now you're interpreting it as you see fit. I read the rules for rebuttal. I actually educated a lot of you guys on the rules for rebuttals. So I think it's very abusive that Councilman Pointer over here, he knows that I'm doing a legit rebuttal, but he wants to stop my time in order, that's abusive. I'm rebutting the last speaker's statement. I have every right.
Council President, point of order. He's just rambling. He's not making a point. If you're rebuttaling, what are you rebutting about? Be specific. We're here to listen.
The last people,
you can make your point.
The last speaker said that people shouldn't be cursing, and I'm saying we should be able to curse. It's our First Amendment right to curse. And for people to gaslight me like I had no right to curse or I did something wrong, absolutely disgusting. I earned my right to curse because I beat the case. You guys slandered me through the media. And if you want to make a big deal, I lost thousands of dollars. I can't come up here and Speaker has 1 minute. And curse. I can come up here and curse. Everyone else curses. The same people who don't want me to curse, Mr. Tarr came up here and cursed today. So it just goes to show the gaslighting. But I'm gonna continue to rebut the last speaker. Actually, I'm gonna rebut another speaker.
Council President, he made his point.
I'm rebutting another
speaker. You disagree.
Speaker. I'm now moving on, and he's interrupting me. Why is he interrupting me?
Okay.
I'm moving on, and he's interrupting me. So another speaker said that there was no purpose, that there was no purpose to removing the meetings. There is a purpose. It's done by design. Every time this Mayor Sam Joshi gets exposed, he removes the meeting and then gaslights me and says it's because I cursed or somebody cursed. Why, when other people curse, the meeting doesn't get removed? Why?
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Any more rebuttals? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public portion?
Council President, can I
Before
just...
we,
okay.
let me close the motion. Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close.
May I have a second? All right, I have a motion by Council Vice President, second by Councilman Coyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Council Vice President?
Yes. Not to put you in a tough spot, Mr. Burns, but can we get some clarification legally? There's a lot of case law that's being cited, and can we get some clarification on what is and is not allowed in terms of free speech here, based on what these people have been saying?
Do you want me to address that now, or do you want me to put together something for the council that can actually lay out what the terms are, what Rosenthal says, what some of the more recent case law says? I can give you a brief summation of what legal's opinion is on what's permitted, what's not permitted.
I think that would be, I would actually like both in answer to your question, but for right now, some kind of brief synopsis would be helpful.
So legal, the way that we've reviewed this is that this is a limited time, place, and manner restriction on a limited public forum. That while the council cannot sanction anyone for disagreeing with the content of their speech, that rules of decorum apply, that excessive vulgarity, that personal attacks that involve excessive vulgarity do violate those rules of decorum, and that the speaker, if they are in violation of those rules of decorum, would then forfeit the rest of their time. That is what was determined. That is the procedure that the council follows, so that if someone does in fact deliberately, intentionally, and maliciously violate the rules of decorum, their time will be forfeited. Their right to speak at this meeting would be forfeited, at which point they would be required to sit down. The content of the speech doesn't matter. They could be excessively vulgar and fully in support of a member of the council, and it would still be in violations of the rules of decorum and would result in the same penalty. That is the only penalty that the council has discussed imposing. That is the rules as they are applied to people when they come up. So what is excessively vulgar? That is a judgment call to be made by the chair.
Indeed, and it's very subjective. It's very subjective, and I think that's the disturbing part, and I think that's what this gentleman over here was trying to get across. in these rules, where can we find the written rules of decorum about this? So there's the case law, but then there are these rules of decorum on a more microcosm level. Where can we all see the written rules of decorum and how that's spelled out?
So there are rules of decorum included in the ordinance with respect to addressing the council and the behavior during council meetings. There are also more generally rules of decorum included in Robert's Rules of Order, which govern any instances that are not specifically addressed or accounted for by the ordinance itself. Those would be the reference guides that you would use to determine what the rules of decorum are. And then obviously there's case law on what is or is not permitted in a limited public forum.
Can you make that accessible to council members? And then, so the rules of decorum on the microcosm level as against First Amendment, when those two come into, when they converge, are you saying that the rules of decorum will take will take precedence?
In a limited public forum such as this, yes. The only requirement at a public meeting for the public to speak is that they be provided with an opportunity to speak. That is the only statutory requirement for how public meetings are to be held. The public meeting, the council meetings, they're to be held in order to conduct the business of council. It's the Open Public Meetings Act that requires that in addition to that, the public be given an opportunity to speak or to address. There are as many different variations on how those rules are implemented as there are municipalities in the state of New Jersey. There are public meetings where the time is limited to less than 5 minutes, where no council members are to address questions from the audience, where any questions that are posed are to be written down and addressed at a later council meeting to be determined at some later date. There are restrictions and permissible restrictions on the free speech portions of it across the board. If unfettered free speech were the rule of the day, then every member of the audience right now could be shouting up here to address the council however they want while they try to conduct business, and there wouldn't be a thing that could be done about it. However, if that were the case, you wouldn't be able to accomplish the purpose of the meeting, which is to conduct the business of the council. And if you notice, there has been the occasional use of curse words tonight during people's addressing of the council. That is maybe distasteful, but it doesn't necessarily violate the rules of decorum. The instance that we're all talking about, the instance that we appear to all have very strong views about, is an instance where I don't think there's, well, I won't say that. I'm not going to speak for anyone up here, but where there was a great deal of volatility, a great deal of exceedingly vulgar language being directed at a specific member of the administration and being done repeatedly.
Hey, no talking, please.
That's
please sit down.
An instance where
Council President, as a point of order, to courtesy to Councilwoman Harris, could we go and do, this is such a deep dive, and I do appreciate the subject, but I think it just, for those who are listening, those who are waiting, and I'm thankful for those who had a chance to speak, chose not to curse. But I think this is a roller coaster. Thank you.
Can I just close by saying, yes, I am troubled by the subjectivity of all of this, and it kind of reminds me of George Carlin's 7 words you can't say on TV, and so I'm troubled by this, and I'm not sure how this gets litigated in the long run. So I'm left feeling unsettled. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Anybody else?
Just as a point,
Councilman Bishop.
I'd like the public to note that it's 7:35. It's probably the earliest meeting, double meeting, that we have ever had, right? And this is an important discussion, I believe. In fact, probably one of the most important discussions that we need to have as a body, okay? And it's only because this has led to many, many meetings that I have gotten calls by the administration where they said the meetings were, let's say, dysfunctional, okay? And a lot of it is because decorum in the meeting devolves into chaos. I don't think that we should stop this discussion. I think Council Vice President should finish getting her answers. I have questions myself.
Okay, you can ask.
And I'd like to kind of get to this. So if Council Vice President would like to finish, and then I'd like to speak afterwards.
No, I'm ready to yield to you, Councilman Brescher.
All right. Where I'm going with this is, number one, I don't believe that the First Amendment gets superseded by anything. Okay, I've said that from day one. I believe that. I believe it to be able to be litigated, and I believe we will lose. I also would like to make a statement here that I believe our attorney, by coming out publicly and saying that he believes that some kind of decorum rule or Roberts rule or whatever that might be would quite possibly supersede the United States Constitution, has now opened up this body to more chaos. So I believe that our attorney, through his words and his actions, are opening this body up to thousands of emails that we've received throughout the years about this type of event. And I just think that that's wrong. I believe the First Amendment, I believe all of our amendments are the basic principles, the founding principles. And I disagree with colleagues here, you know, when we talk about all things like guns or whatever it is. If it's in the Constitution, it's here. It's what we live for. It's what our men have died for, what my grandfather and uncles have went to war for. They went for all of that First Amendment stuff. And while it might be offensive, and I say I understand the word offensive, and it goes back to what my council vice president said. We opened up Pandora's box, and I said this before. My generation with George Carlin, we opened up that box, and now we're not happy because that box is getting pressed to a certain limit. And I don't think that once the box is opened that you can try to close it without costing this municipality hundreds of thousands of dollars in litigation and then payments for stifling the First Amendment. You know, and I've been like this for years on this. Okay. I myself don't run around, you know, yelling and cursing at people in the stores, but I recognize it as a right. And I don't find it even shocking in the day that we live today because of what we see on TV and what we see on the little reels. It's coming from our children, right? So we've progressed. I mean, some of my council colleagues are younger than me, right? So you didn't grow up with my, yes, a lot, but you didn't grow up with like my grandmother and what would happen if I used like a little dirty word, not even one of the 7 dirty words, but one of them ones before it, how much soap I had to eat as a child. But we are no longer in that generation because we, unfortunately, opened up that Pandora's box. That would be it. Thank you, Council President.
I understand. And as for the cursing, I believe it is okay to curse. If you need to curse to express yourself, that is okay. I hope you don't, but you are allowed to curse, and that is fine. What is not allowed is if you are not following the decorum, which is what the legal was trying to say. If, let's say, I were to ask you to stop and you continue talking over me and yelling over me, I do have a right to stop you and have you. Please don't talk from the public for the portion. Thank you. At the end of the day, you are allowed to curse, you're allowed to speak your mind, you're allowed to be critical of anybody sitting here, you're allowed to be critical of, and you are allowed to say what you want to say. But what you're not allowed to do is not follow the Robert's rule of decorum, which is why you have a certain time limit as to what time you are allowed to speak. When you're recognized, you're not allowed to talk from the audience and disturb the person that is recognized. There are certain rules that we have to follow so that we can all be heard clearly. And that is all we ask. Simple as that. Moving on to from number 20, from the council member to the planning board. Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. The planning board held a special board meeting on Monday, April 15th. There was only one item for the board's consideration, which was P04-2024, the Lancet Edison 222 Plainfield Road, RC zone. Preliminary and final subdivision approval was sought to construct 8 single-family homes on a cul-de-sac. Plans were conforming to the established RC zone, which, as you may remember, is part of the settlement agreement between the township and the developer regarding the challenge to the council's ruling on the original townhouse application. Testimony was provided to the conformity of the bulk and design standards. Additional items discussed included fire safety measures, entry and exit onto the street, considering the new entry point, and spacing available provided if individuals park on the street. Additionally, several requests made by residents were agreed upon as conditions of approval. Upon motion and second to approve, the application was unanimously approved. With no further items for consideration, the meeting was adjourned. The next planning board meeting is scheduled for this Monday, April 29th at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Note that an update to the master plan with additional revisions is being presented as well. However, I will specify that I am unsure if additional comment will be taken at that time or if it's just presentation only. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Moving on to number 22, points of light. Anyone have any points of lights?
Yes, I do.
Vice President?
Actually, what about council committees? That was.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I missed number 21. Reports from all council committees. Any reports? Councilman Brescher? No.
Do points of light?
No, we're going to 21. Sorry, I jumped over a little. Any reports from the committees?
No, I didn't get the meeting set up this week.
Okay. Councilman Coyle, any reports?
Oh, just waiting to confirm a meeting for finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President?
Yes, two. The Cultural Arts Commission met on April 9th and discussed were the fact that Chairman Tony Massaro had a meeting with Mayor Joshi, Bob Deal, and Pat Coyle. Things addressed were the possible appointment of Don Tarr to this commission with no clear objections from the mayor. Letter to the Edison Art Society that we are a clearinghouse to all exhibits. The mayor agreed with that. And also the possibility of using pavers as a fundraiser for walkway into the building. And the mayor had no objection to that concept either. I had also, I was not at this meeting, I was at the special library board meeting, but I had let the commission know that Human Relations and the library board are wanting to team up with the Edison Cultural Arts Committee and Commission, and that I think would be those would be two very positive pairings. Also discussed were the possibility of utility boxes to be decorated with students painting and looking maybe for high school kids to find a box by their house and submit ideas for decorating. It was Michelle Sudakar said that they will work on inventory for utility boxes for decorating. And so that I think would be a plus. A lot of towns and places do that, and it's really quite nice, and it really discourages graffiti from being put on those boxes. Regarding the Jazz Festival, which will take place in Edison on September 25th of this year, there was a Zoom meeting in February with Ujwal and Judy on our commission. Ujwal is getting teams and performance together. Judy's working on it. Judy has all 3 acts already with food vendors, food trucks, etc. She's submitting the application for May 3rd approval. The next session will be May 14th, and according to Lois Tarr, the bylaws will be ready for the next meeting. That is the Cultural Arts Commission. Moving on to the Library Board, who had their meeting on April 9th. The President's report, Ms. Massey recognized that it was the library's 95th birthday kickoff, as well as National Library Week and National Library Workers' Day. Ms. Massey thanked the library staff, the Library Foundation, and Friends of the Library for their work. She stated there are many programs available at the library, but she has signed up for the Author Talk programs and highly recommended these programs. The director's report, Mr. Kleiman discussed the new bookmobile, the small bookmobile. He stated it will be used to go to smaller stops and expand services to nursery schools and seniors. The new bookmobile will be able to do lobby stops. He also mentioned that the Library Foundation spoke about their goals at the retreat. He stated it's great to have the Library Foundation and Friends of Edison Public Library as two fundraising and advocacy arms. He provided an update on the North Edison branch construction project, indicated it seems likely the project will go to bid sometime in the summer and that construction will not start until at least mid-fall. With regard to the main branch construction project, the contractor G. Meyer Group has filed for permits. They're expected to be received by the end of the month. And once construction settles, the library will look into improvements at the Claire Barton branch. It's likely that some programming will shift to Claire Barton during construction. New staff member Elizabeth Freed has been hired as a full-time principal librarian. She will be focusing on older adult services. Ms. Leary announced the Edison Farmers Market will be returning. It will be held every Thursday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Swales Park starting May 30th. And the next library board meeting will be held at the Clara Barton branch on May 14th. And that concludes my reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Quinter.
Thank you, Council President. I was unable to attend the Environmental Commission meeting last week. I've asked for them to provide me a report, which I'll give a full update at the next meeting, but I do want to express my appreciation to the Environmental Commission for the recent cleanups that they've been doing. They've included at Millbrook and at Glendale. A lot of trash has been picked up, so I just wanted to express my appreciation for their efforts. The Education Committee held its monthly meeting on Tuesday, April 16th. Numerous items were discussed, which included OEM coordination with schools regarding natural disaster events. We discussed the school board objectives regarding their strategic management plan going forward. Goals and objectives with the implementation of the pre-K program in the township, as well as findings from the recent demographic study. We discussed collaborating with the Board of Education to in addressing issues found through their study and verifying the study's findings to make sure that there's good coordination. The next meeting will be in May. I don't have a date established at the time, and that's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. None for me. Moving on to number 22, point of lights.
Yes.
Council Vice President.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to point everybody's attention to the fact that the seal is back on the wall at long last, and I'm hoping that those of you watching on TV can see it as well. So we're really happy to have that back where it belongs. I'd also like to talk about what an honor and privilege it was to attend the police swearing-in ceremony on April 17th, along with Councilman Brescher, Councilman Coyle, and Councilman Schmuel. We have new officers, Ahmad Awade, formerly of Patterson Police Department, Samuel Catufos, formerly of Franklin Township Police Department, Brian Hartman, formerly Long Hill Township Police Department, Gregory Spath, formerly Middlesex County Sheriff's Office, and then Ernesto Fernandez, Hannah Flordeliza, and Kyle Telesnik. Just a note about Hannah Flordeliza, for those who don't know, she is the daughter of I'm blanking out, thank you, Joseph Luistro, oh my God. The late Joseph Luistro, who was very much beloved, and it was very touching. She was actually sworn in with her father's badge. She has her regular badge, but for the swearing-in ceremony, she was sworn in with the badge. So we're happy to have all of these new hires, and that concludes my points of light. Thank you.
And thank you, Council Vice President. Any other council members?
Council President.
Councilman Coyle.
Again, I'm truly proud of the new hires to public safety and the chief and the mayor and administration. That was a wonderful event. Thank you for bringing that up, Councilwoman Harris. Great opportunity in Edison. I think we're certainly doing great things when it comes to public safety. On another note, over the weekend we celebrated Eid at Papania Park. I think it was a well-attended event. Among many cultural events we have, I think this mayor and administration has done the most when it comes to diversity and having different events in town here. So great opportunity. Probably 7,000 to 8,000 people plus attended, and many different mayors and dignitaries around different towns and states came, which was wonderful. So thank you, Council President.
Councilman Coyle?
I have one more, I'm sorry. Can I do one more? Yes, also attended the openings for North Edison Baseball and the Midtown Softball. And the North Edison Baseball, it was freezing out, but all these kids came out. It was wonderful to see. It had to be at least, I'm going to say about 100 kids there. And of course, the next day was Midtown, and that was that was a gorgeous day. But it's nice to see everyone playing ball again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle? Councilman Pointer?
Thank you, Council President. Just want to wish a happy Passover to those observing. Thank you, Council President.
I just want to make some announcements. So this Saturday, April 27th, the Edison Police will be hosting the DEA National Prescription Take Back Day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the council chambers. And on Saturday, May 4th, the Fishing Derby at Lake Papiani, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're interested to attend. I was in attendance with Councilman Coyle and Councilman Pointer at the Eid, which was very well attended, beautiful weather, and many family and many kids having lots of fun. So I'm hoping to attend next year as well. Moving on to number 23, discussion items, starting with Councilman Coyle.
Thank you, Council President. My update in communications, I spoke to the administration, and most of those discussions are completed. Finance, I just wanted to again emphasize on the squad and looking into that opportunity, whether we can or cannot support their situation at this time. Future tax revenues, we'd had discussion. Economic developer, just curious the status. I know we're interviewing, looking at people. Council President, we getting close to the economic developer, to the administration?
I believe I was going to ask for the update myself.
Okay.
We are scheduling interviews.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think that's an easy person to find, and the makeup of that person should have a diverse, group of qualities when it comes to that. So I can understand taking time, and I'm certainly looking forward to the impact of change that can have in the community. I also wrote down the small business and retail stores. That's also part of the economic development. Affordable housing, through the Council President, through the calendar year, could we pick a date sometime in the next 60 days to have someone come here to speak 10 minutes on affordable housing and the application process, maybe do a small slideshow? There is a fine line of confusion among those who are applying, how they list and how they get on the list of affordable housing, and what the criteria is, and if there's any prioritization between a veteran, disability, how the list, comes together, and where is the list? Not that it's our list, but how it gets calculated in the state. It's something I want to take a deeper dive, and I think other members of the council have the same questions. I believe it's run by one particular, state, organization, but I don't have all those answers. So I'd love to see that.
Let me one second. Sonia, is that something we can do next, to get the process of affordable housing? Can someone make a report on it and have a presentation?
Sure. We technically have, so we have CGP&H who runs the affordable housing for us. And they do all of the qualifications alongside the repair program. So they have actually, they're very detailed, and they do a presentation for us. So I don't see why, if the council wishes to have perhaps a 10-minute presentation by them to inform folks, I wouldn't see an issue to that. So we can certainly try to accommodate that with the administration to have them here to present. Because as you know, as the council, you have to approve that plan essentially, along with the mayor.
And along with that presentation, can we also discuss the affordable housing units that we owe and how that process works?
I can certainly bring that up to them. I know that it's coming up in 2025.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we are ready for it.
I'll work with legal on that aspect, because there's a more technical aspect to that.
Okay, so I would like to have them both combined, the presentation, if that's
sure.
possible.
When do you foresee having that presentation so I could prepare?
Would you be ready with the next meeting, or do you want more time?
I think if you could, the later part of the May meeting, if that,
Okay, that's fine.
that's
We can do
possible.
the last meeting of May. Can you put that on the agenda?
Okay. This is my time, Councilman.
You want to do a special? Let's let Councilman Coyle finish.
No, if it could be done during the work session, that's be my interest, if the council agrees, only because we won't have anybody else waiting. And I'm happy with 10 minutes. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. At the end of the day, if and when a resident applies, where they wind up on the list, how they can see the list, who they call to check up where they are on the list. That's all. Thank you. Public safety, Council President, we had discussion about the officers being hired at Public Works. I just wanted to get into having a meeting with the director through the BA, just on a list of items, some stuff we've discussed, but I want to get into a formal meeting to understand the summer plan throughout the town. There are some things they're doing which I'm impressed, but I just wouldn't mind getting up to speed with my other council members on what direction we're going in Edison as far as beautification and so forth, and how we tie the calendar of maintenance together. Last, I just also want to comment, I had a chance to visit the mechanics garage today. I have not been there for a while, and not long ago we voted for a new floor for the mechanics garage. Not to tell you, it looks really good. The place was spotless. I was just surprised that it's been installed probably almost a year ago, and it was spotless there. But aside from that, they had a training room there, and they also have a lunchroom there. And most impressive, during a storm, the TVs are constantly running. So if anybody is working and on edge of wanting to know what's going on while they're grabbing and refreshing their cooler with coffee and moving back out to their truck during a 24-hour snowstorm, they can see what's going on. And there is a team meeting room set up. It could be a conference table or set up for teaching. So it's a good flex station you'd have to see if you haven't been there already. I was impressed. I mean, I know from the residents looking at the council and knowing where their tax dollars is, don't see that every day. But when you see the efficiency, what's happening in Public Works and how we get men and women out onto the street, do their job, it all happens because of the new organizational plan that's happening there, and you'd be really impressed. So I hope to one day visit with someone else here. I'm sure Councilman Brescher would come with me, but I'm open to join anyone, but it was quite impressive. So thank you, Council President, and I'll wait for the affordable housing discussion another day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. That's going to take place on the work session May 20th.
Going to shoot for it. She's going to.
And last, Council President, when and if we do that, I would just want to add a caveat that perhaps the affordable housing team could come up with a small, quick video synopsis of how someone could apply, throughout our channeling.
I'm hoping that the 10-minute presentation would.
Or maybe that's it. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Councilman Brescher? Your discussion items.
I'm not going to talk about F. I'm leaving that on, but I'm going to come back to that in another couple weeks because I know they're working on that. I'd like to see if there's any way possible that we can get graffiti removes around town, especially that spring is coming. I know we talked about it last meeting, but I'd like to say, is there a way possible that we can get this removed around the town over the next 2 weeks before our next meeting?
I have to wait for the green light. No pun intended. If you could at least, if there are specific areas, I'd certainly like to address those.
Well, I'm just talking about quality of life in general.
Okay.
So, like what I'm saying is I'd like to see it taken care of over the next 2 weeks, wherever it might be. We have hundreds of employees on the streets every day. Our police department drives throughout the community all day. So if they could make those notes and send it to DPW, and then maybe they could take care of it. And before next meeting, I'll take a drive around and see if I seen that anything was actually done. You don't want me driving around really to dictate every area where it is. But it's just an overall problem that I've heard. Some of it was like by 287 that I heard that we had quite a bit. I know some was down on Route 1. but it's all around town. You can't kind of miss it, and it's not art. So yeah, if we could do something with that, and let's see where we end up with by next meeting. May Street, they had a issue with like flooding and ponding water there. So if we can have somebody take a look at that. The sprinkler, fire safety, township buildings. I have not looked at my emails recently to know whether you sent me a list of our inspections by our sprinkler company and fire alarm company for our municipal buildings.
That was sent previously. What will be on the next council meeting is we went out to bid, and so the award of the bid will happen at the next council meeting for approval. We do need to redo the entire system.
Oh, okay. Can you send me the reports though, just so I can see how bad they are at current time?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Youth sports funding, I did receive an email from Ken. I kind of skipped over it, so I'll respond. I don't really know what he asked me, but
Reason being, because when we had the discussion about the formula,
yes,
there was something that you had worked on and made sense, and that's why he's getting in touch with you to just have some background, because his team is doing an analysis to follow up on making sure that the calculations, one, are correct, and that if there's a potential reallocation of funding, whether there's an increase or everything stays on par. But we're doing an entire analysis, and I knew you had some background on it, so that's why he communicated with you.
Okay, so yes, I'll follow up on that one, and I acknowledge he did send that to me. I just was kind of busy on that one. The flooding areas, I'm going to go over. I'm going to jump down then to safety notifications. Is there some way, and so we had issues, right? We had a potential bomb threat or a potential threat at one of our strip malls. We had an earthquake, right? And I know that the mayor put something out to the bomb threat that we had. And I know that it turned out that it wasn't really credible, or it wasn't really relevant to Edison. It might have been relevant to a nearby town or something like that. And then it came out. But I'd like to say if there's a way that could go out as like a Nixle alert, like when it first comes out. So we're aware of this. And then like Nixle, when the traffic is cleared, right? Nixle could send out that alert saying, the threat has been cleared. I like that the mayor did that, and came out publicly and said that there was something, because, well, if something was there and you happened to go there and you didn't know this, you could end up being a victim. So I'd like to see if we could do this more like in a Nixle alert as opposed to like a Facebook type of notice. All right. Lawyer conflict. This came from a meeting, I guess, that we were at a couple weeks ago. And, I'd like to say that the mayor presented a budget last year. And in his budget, he was misleading in how we have the lowest tax increase, or, whatever his statement was. It was misleading because it made it sound like this body was the person that did that. And it wasn't this body. It was the Board of Education in Edison and the county that allowed that to happen. But what I want people to notice about that was that I allowed the mayor to give his presentation. And at the end, at a certain period, it is my turn to speak. And at that time, I spoke, and I said that. Well, he was, in his presentation. And when we talk about decorum and things of that nature, that's how it should be handled, in my mind. If somebody on the dais says something that's incorrect, right, when it's your turn to speak, you're able to do that, or you can rebut what's there. But at the meeting a couple weeks ago, I felt that our attorney was doing to me what our resident Christo was talking about, which was gaslighting, right? Which was, I was saying something that was not flattering, let's say, maybe to the mayor. So because of that, I was interrupted, which caused me, being gaslit, to allow the meeting to devolve into more chaos. So I'd like to know that we're not going to interrupt people. We're going to give people their opportunity to speak, okay? With that being said, I might as well then be honest and also say that I believe that there was a conflict. My council colleague told me that he spoke to our attorney, and the attorney said he was only trying to protect the mayor. When he sits here at this body, he is here for the council. He's not here to represent the mayor. So there is a conflict, because at times the council and the mayor can be in conflict. It was one of the reasons why a few years ago I proposed that we had a separate attorney that would fall legally underneath the attorney for law, which would be the same law firm, but that a separate attorney that was chosen by the council would be present. And that was legal as per our last law firm that we had, as long as it fell underneath the same lawyer. Like we have other lawyers that do labor negotiations, they do tax appeals. So we do hire other attorneys to do other things. When we get to talking about like protecting, I'm kind of offended when I see the lawyer and he wants to protect the mayor. I also don't believe so much that the attorney needs to protect elected council people. Okay, we're here, and if the public's upset, I think they have a right to express how upset they are and say whatever they do say. There is an exception, though, that I do have, and that does take up with our employees, okay? And when our employees are attacked by members of the public, I think it's wrong, because, and I'll tell you where I go with that. I believe that all of the employees here in the town are here and they're following the direction of the administration. And I know I've used the word administration, and I've spoken to the BA, and she took it as I was talking about her and her role. And I explained to her that the administration isn't her only. It is her, but it is ultimately the mayor who is ultimately the one responsible. So for me, for the resident to be upset at the employee, he shouldn't be upset with the employee. He should be upset with the head of that department, which would be the mayor himself. So I do believe that our attorney, while trying to protect the mayor by interrupting a council person, is wrong. I do believe the attorney should protect our employees. Our last attorney that we had that was here, Bill Northgrave, that was here, anybody that ever witnessed Bill in this council chambers would tell you that Bill would jump in front and take the abuse from the resident to protect the council members and the employees, and I commend him for that. Now, I do understand that these are two different men, and they do things differently, but I'm entirely disappointed in our attorney for all of these reasons. And I just wanted that to be on the record, and that would be a council president.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. I do want to forward you an article that I read recently on hiring a separate lawyer for legal. You can read that when you get a chance. It was in New Brunswick. I think the judge essentially turned down that the council can hire their own attorney. But I'll forward it to you. As for me, I'm going to start from the bottom up, the update on the economic developer. As Sonia already said, that they're still doing the interviews. Any update on the website?
I'll have to check with my office who's intimately working on that, Ms. Leary.
And a question on the UI and who decides and how that will be approved. Who's working on the user interface of the website?
That would be the vendor, as far as you mean, who in departments would be using the website?
No, who will be approving the user interface as to, the design and...
The administration.
Okay, have you gotten that yet?
Not yet, not that I'm aware of.
I am interested in it once you do get it. to take a look at prior to approval, if you can.
Sure.
Thank you. Is there any update on the bike path under the power lines in the Papiani Park?
Let's check with Mr. Deal on that one as well.
I think that was
Is that
legal,
with
so-
JCP&L, Mr. Burns?
No, it's still with JCP&L's legal department to make sure that everything is all set. Because it's over with their legal department, I've been working with the contact on getting everything prepared for when it gets out of their legal department so that we can move quickly once that is through. So anything that we can address on our end, we're working on. That way we don't have to wait, but hopefully that should be soon.
Okay. And for the number 8, Transit Village near Edison train station, this was a topic of discussion that happened at the Open Space Committee. We were talking about essentially bike paths near Edison train station to Rutgers, Livingston campus, and we have a lot of land there. I'm not sure if all of it is owned by Edison, and the idea that we can utilize that land to develop essentially a transit village, which is already in the master plan, but getting thoughts on it and something that we can work with, talk about it in public, get more opinions on it, so it's not something behind closed doors. But the idea is to get the transit money, because there's a lot of money in transit village that the state provides, if I'm not mistaken, and we can use that fund to help build our town. This would also help us with the affordable housing requirements that we do have to meet by 2025. And I'm hoping that at the discussion on May 20th, we can get the numbers and we can get the idea as to what the timeline is. And hopefully we can use the transit money in near Edison station to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. So that's the idea. I do want to develop that idea further down the road. Now moving on to number 24, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? You can talk after. Unfortunately, the public portion is closed. We can talk offline. We cannot talk back and forth, unfortunately. I'm sorry. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Council Vice President, second by Councilman Pointer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 8:13. Yeah.